Hello and welcome to this episode of Essex by the Sea. I'm Owen, exploring the Essex coast, finding out about the amazing and interesting stories it has to offer. Don't forget to subscribe on your favourite podcast app, and if you like what you hear, don't forget to tell your friends about Essex by the Sea as well. For this episode, I'm in Walton-on-the-Naze, and Michelle Nye-Brown is the owner of the Naze Tower, which is a historic navigation tower. So I'm led to believe. Thank you ever so much for inviting me into the tower, Michelle.
Hello, yeah, you're most welcome.
So, first of all, how old is the tower?
Okay, so the tower's 301 years old. It was built in 1720 by Trinity House. And it is a navigation mark, and it is the only one like it in the whole country, so a very special building.
So you say it was a navigation mark, but it's not a lighthouse as we know what lighthouses are they? So was it literally just, we need something to know where we are, we'll put a tower up?
In actual fact, this is what came before lighthouses. So never had an electric light put on the top of it, the usual lighthouse type of lights. And this one actually had fire on top in its early days. So we're pretty sure it had a beacon on the top. And so they were still using fire back in 1720 when this was built. They hadn't invented the reflective lighthouse. So that's why. So yeah, this is what came before the reflective lighthouse.
Why here on the Naze in particular that this unique building was built?
They chose this spot because it was the highest point in the area, and so they built it here to get the best visibility from the sea. And in actual fact, when it was built, the Naze Tower was actually 1/4 of a mile inland. It wasn't on the edge like it is now, so it's only 50 metres from the edge today, but it just goes to show you how bad the erosion really is at Walton-on-the-Naze. It was literally 1/4 of a mile inland. But so they chose this spot because of the Port of Harwich as well. So this tower was all about getting into the Port of Harwich, which back in 1720 would have been a really busy port.
Yeah, obviously we've got the Port of Felixstowe, which is just across the water, and today it's a glorious day. We can see it from the cliff tops. But really, the port would have been Harwich, wouldn't it? That historic port for all the ships to come in. So I guess if you were sailing out in the seas, it was a case of see the tower, we must be nearly home.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean the radius that you can see from the tower and back to it is about 30 miles. So it's a really big, you can see it for a long way. It's a pretty prominent landmark. And in actual fact, it actually marks out the sandbanks, because here at Walton we've got a lot of sandbanks out there, and so I imagine ships were getting stuck on those, and so that's why they built it. In actual fact, before this tower was built though, there was actually a structure here before this one, going back all the way to the 1500s. There's been a structure here, but it was in such bad disrepair that's why they built this one in brick. The guy who built it was called William Ogborne. It took them a year to build it.
Not very long then, and there's a lot of bricks just looking around. They must have been going at some rate.
Yeah, Trinity House actually told them to build it as tall as they could, and they got to 86 feet. So they were literally told, make it as tall as you can, and it's 86 feet high. But yeah, it's a really unusual building and very special. It's Grade 2 star listed by Historic England because of that.
Now, you mentioned about how close we are to the cliff edge, and we're not very far from it at all. And Walton has been in the news recently because of the erosion to the cliffs. I mean, could we see a point where the tower is under threat?
The tower, in actual fact, the tower is very much under threat, but because of that, we actually worked really hard with the Naze Protection Society to actually get a sea defence put in front of it. And we have got the Crag Walk sea defence in front of the tower now, which is a rock revetment, and that was put in 2011. Before that, the tower was literally going to be going in the sea, and time was running out, and so it was just put in at the right time. That does protect it, but obviously it could do with being extended. It's only 110 metres long, so the next bit of land beyond where Crag Walk finishes is now going, and that will be cutting behind. So in the future, I think they will need to extend Crag Walk to protect more of the Naze and also to protect the tower.
The Naze itself is a haven for wildlife, isn't it? And I know you've got the Essex Wildlife Trust as neighbours next door, but this is a great place for people to come and visit, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean the Naze has got so much to offer. Firstly, obviously there's the tower, but also the actual Naze itself is a really special place for like fossil hunting. We've got our fossil-rich cliffs, so lots of people come here looking particularly for shark's teeth. And also you've got the the John Weston Nature Reserve on the end of the Naze, but you've also got lots of trail walks around the Naze. So you've got a World War II one, a wildlife one, and a fossil sculpture one. So there's quite a lot of good trails to do out on the Naze. And then you can also walk around the whole of the sea wall, around the backwaters in a big loop walk, and take in the Walton backwaters, which is my favourite view from the top of the tower. And it's a beautiful area. It's actually a national nature reserve. It's a very special site of special scientific interest, and we have our own population of seals over there as well. So you can go for a seal trip out there as well. There's a boat which does that too.
Fantastic. And if people have come to the Naze and they think, we'd like to go up the tower, what could people expect to see?
Okay, so the tower is now a tourist attraction. We became a tourist attraction in 2004. Before that, people could never actually come in the tower. So we opened it up to the public, and it now has tea rooms, art galleries, the museum floor, and on the top the viewing platform. And so there's lots to see as you go up, which makes the climb a bit easier because you can keep stopping to look at things. And so it's a really, there's a lot to the actual, a lot to see inside the tower, and also the view from the top is massive and always changing with the tides and the weather.
I bet on a clear day, I think you said it was 30 miles that you could see around about?
Yeah, it's up to 30 miles away, and in actual fact, the furthest you can see, it's got to be crystal clear, and with binoculars, you can actually see the coast of Kent as a landmass in the distance, because in a way, as the crow flies, and by sea, it's not actually that far, but the furthest you can see up into Suffolk, a lot of our view is actually into Suffolk as well, and you can see as far as Orford-Ness. So unfortunately, you used to be able to see the lighthouse there, but that one unfortunately has now gone. But you can see up as far as there as well. So it's got a big view. Yeah, we'll be going up in a bit, so you can see it.
How did you come to own this historic tower? Because it's kind of not the sort of thing you perhaps would see on a property website and think, I know, I'll buy a tower.
Yeah, it's very unusual because the tower is actually owned by a local family, which is very unusual, and we've run it since 2004, so for quite a long time, which is lovely though. It's actually my mum who actually started it all off. She actually bought the tower originally, and we used to call it Rosemary's Folly. And then she was thinking about originally making it into a hut house. But then we realised that with being in such an amazing public open space that the Naze is, that actually it would be better as a public building. And that's when we decided to go for the permission to make it into a tourist attraction. So yeah, it is a very unusual thing to own though. But it's been a very interesting journey owning the tower. It's difficult looking after historic buildings. I think I sort of have got a love-hate relationship with the building, but overall I do love it, and I love the view from the top. And it's got a special place in my heart, but I think it's got a special place in quite a lot of other people's hearts. The Naze is a really popular place. Walton is as well. People have been coming here on holidays as kids, and then they return, and that's a really beautiful thing. And people genuinely do love Walton and the Naze and the tower, so that's a lovely thing.
Well, you mentioned about the view from the top. How many steps is it all the way to the top, Michelle?
So you've got 111 steps to do, I'm afraid. So we've got this beautiful Victorian spiral staircase in here. Otherwise, you would be going up ladders previous to that. But obviously, you've got some breaks on the way to look at the art and look at the museums. It does make it a lot easier having the floors.
Excellent. Okay, so I'll put that 111, you say. Should we start counting them then? Here we go. So we've come up a couple of floors, Michelle. We'll take a breather, if you don't mind. And I've just noticed there's a TV monitor here. What's that showing?
That's the Naze Tower kestrel in her box on the outside. This is our third year of her nesting on here. And she's actually got 4 or 5 eggs underneath her. They always seem to fledge really well from here. And it's such a good place for them to hunt out on the Naze. So it's a perfect spot. They love sitting on top of the tower as well. Alongside
the monitor here, we've got some of the artwork. These look like vinyl records here. What are these?
So this is one of our solo shows. This is Alison Stockmar, and she's an artist from Wivenhoe, and she makes these amazing originals and prints. and she uses encyclopedia, record sleeves, and also like books, and she actually then makes them into collages, which are very decorative but also quite playful, and she makes these amazing collages out of them, and they're actually really quite, when you look at them in detail, there's quite a lot of fun aspects to them.
Basically almost brings the record covers alive, really, doesn't it? It sort of expands the artwork that's already there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and also she uses books a lot as well. So, but they are very playful.
Lovely. Okay, let's continue up the tower then. How many more steps have we got to go?
I think we're not quite halfway yet, I'm afraid.
Right, here we go then. Let's do some more steps. We've reached the 4th floor now of the tower, and looking around on the walls, it's sort of the history of the tower, Michelle.
Yes, that's right, yes. It's a pictorial history of the Naze Tower, and also we've got cabinets with finds from the Naze, especially the fossils, and also military items. The Naze has been, and the tower, has got an interesting history. It's particularly been used during times of war, so just picking out a couple of pictures here. So over 100 years ago, you've got these, the Navy were actually based at the tower, and these are signal flags down the side of the tower, and on the top a semaphore post. And the Royal Navy were using the tower at this point to actually signal to ships out at sea, and also to other posts along the coast. The flags down the side actually spell out the name of a boat, Jane, and they're communicating with that boat in that picture. Then in the First World War, we've got sentry boxes were actually added onto the tower, which aren't here now. So the tower was used as a lookout. And then in the Second World War, this is one of its most interesting uses, it was turned into a radar tower. So we've got a huge radar on top of the tower. And in actual fact, that picture's particularly special because it was actually illegally taken. And so we're really lucky someone took it, because we don't know who took it. But in actual fact, that's the only picture we have of it with a radar on it. And if they hadn't have taken it, we wouldn't know what it looked like.
And a strategic place, obviously, on the entrance to the ports of Harwich and Felixstowe as well, right on the east coast here. So, you know, actually the first line of defence, you could say.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, the whole of this, the Naze was actually turned over to the military, and they did think this would be like a potential place where an invasion would occur.
Let's continue up the tower then, shall we? 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111. You were right, Michelle. I'm a little bit out of breath as we come up, and wow, look at this view.
Yeah, it's stunning, isn't it? Absolutely stunning. It is meant to be one of the best views in Essex from the top of the Naze Tower, so...
You can probably hear the flag fluttering in the background. It's quite breezy today, even though it's glorious sunshine. And you can see for miles.
Oh yeah, no, the view from the top is really quite stunning. You know, over there we're looking out over the Walton backwaters. That's my favourite view. It's all islands and inlets, salt marsh, mud flats, very typical Essex coastline. And you've got the marina over there with all the sailing boats. So you've always got loads of interesting sailing activity going on. There's always something to look at. If we go around this side, to the south, we've got the town of Walton-on-the-Naze. You're looking at Walton Pier over there. And you can see all the lovely sandy beaches which we've got here at Walton as well.
We're right at the top now. There's the sort of spiral staircase that we came out right in the centre. So we're making our way round. So we're now looking out to sea. So it might get a little bit breezy.
Yeah, so over here we're looking out to sea. You've got lovely sailing boats going past today. It's a glorious day, and quite a lot of people out sailing. And also down here you've got the Cragwalk Sea Defence, which is protecting the tower from going in the sea, you can see. If you can hear that noise, that's because we've actually got a drumming circle near the tower today as well.
You mentioned earlier about how further out the coast was. I can see what looks like a World War II pillbox that he's been battered by the waves down at beach level. I guess it wasn't there originally.
No, so those two pillboxes, which are now in the sea, used to be on the cliff top. So the cliff used to go out as far as they did. They went over the side probably about 40 years ago. So that shows you how much erosion has occurred since then. It's a lot. Looking out at the sea though, what you need to do is take yourself back. Back in 1300, the Naze actually extended out all the way out there in a massive nose shape, and that is why the place is called Walton-on-the-Naze, because Naze translates from the Old English meaning nose, and so the land went out all the way out there, and actually 1300, 7 miles out. So
wow.
yes, so the erosion rates are incredible here, if I'm honest, and how much land has gone already.
We're now looking out across the estuary and over, we can see the cranes of Felixstowe. There's a large boat that I can see is being unloaded at the moment across the estuary there.
Yeah, that's right. So we're looking up into Suffolk in this direction. So you've got Harwich, and then you've got over the water into Felixstowe, and then all the way up to Walton-on-the-Naze is as far as you can see.
Wow, it is spectacular. And if you think, well, actually I'm not going to be able to make it all the way up to the top, or if heights aren't your thing, on one of the galleries which we didn't stop at, Michelle, is actually some artwork of the views from the top.
Yeah, on the 6th floor we actually had the work of David Marshall. This is quite typical of quite a few of the artists who we show. They often respond to the actual local area and the view, and a lot of his pictures are actually of what you can see from the top of the tower. So yeah, if you don't make it quite to the top, yeah, you could maybe make it to that floor and see his work. And they're massive, big, bold, distinctive paintings. He's got a very distinctive style, and they're gorgeous pictures of the local coastline.
Well, Michelle, if people want to find out more about the tower and perhaps want to come up themselves, you've got a website, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got a new website which is nazetower.co.uk, and you can actually book tickets online, and there's all the information that you need there. So please have a look, and also you can get tickets on the day if you don't book them online as well, so there is some allocation on each day too.
Michelle, thank you ever so much for giving us a whistle-stop tour of the tower, and thank you for showing us around.
Thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe on your favourite podcast app and like and follow on social media. You can find Essex by the Sea on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. So till next time, thanks very much for listening.